Hey guys, what's up? It's Karl, and this video is going to be slightly different as we're kind of beginning the year. I'm actually planning myself on making upgrades to the studio just to upgrade my YouTube game. So the first thing that I was planning was buying a new camera, or I guess two camera bodies. I am eyeing the A7S III. It's pretty much the video king in the Sony game and should hopefully improve the color science, as I'm not the happiest with my A7R3s, both of which I'm recording with right now. The second piece of kit I'm eyeing is the Rhino Arc II, and that's just an upgrade to an existing slider that I have to kind of get some silkier B-roll sequences to kind of upgrade my game. I realize both of those upgrades are on the higher end of the budget scale, so this episode I wanted to talk about a lot of the budget things that you can do that you can actually upgrade to if you're planning to start your own YouTube career, if you want to be a content creator. There are other pieces of tech or other accessories that you can grab that will not hurt the wallet, that won't break the bank, and I wouldn't recommend if you're starting off to get a $4,000 or $5,000 camera. Start off on the lower end and slowly build up. We'll kick things off first with a camera. So this is the Canon RP. Crazy that I'm talking about a Canon camera, but I think this brings some serious value, $1,000, and you get a full frame sensor. So this is Canon's entryway or entry-level model into their R line. So you can get up to 4K, but you do suffer a bit from that 1.6 times crop. So I'd recommend if you're grabbing this, stick to 1080p. You get some really good image quality. You still get that dual pixel autofocus, which Canon is kind of famous for. And the biggest thing for this is that lovely Canon color science. I think it's kind of unmatched. The reason why I'm going to the A7S III is to get better colors out of my camera. I still think this camera produces nicer skin tones. It's more real life, it's a bit warmer, and it still comes in this nice compact form factor. And we're actually gonna switch now from my A7R III to the RP footage now. So right now we're on the RP, so we're shooting in 1080p at 30 frames. Really curious the difference between this and my Sony, like I mentioned. So audio-wise, you'll probably notice a bit of a dip because we are using the little external mic. So $50 compared to, say, a $250, $300 mic that sits way closer to me. And like I mentioned, one of my favorite things of Canon is that dual pixel autofocus. So if I come closer, tracking, and when I get back, it pretty much hits it 99% of the time. So super dope if you don't want to use manual or don't have an extra set of hands on set. So that just gave you a very quick sense in both quality and color comparison between both cameras. Curious to see which you guys prefer. Hopefully you guys are still team Sony, but if you do like the Canon color science, if you are invested into some of the lenses, their R line has just gotten so much better. I love that Canon is switching now into that mirrorless game. They've really crushed it in the past couple years. The lens that we've gone for to keep things budget is the 35 f1.8. It is a macro lens, but it kind of doubles as both a regular camera. You can use it to record A-roll because 35 mils is so versatile. It's what your eye sees. And it's actually the most aesthetic focal range to, I guess, what your brain thinks. So definitely grabbing a 35 prime is key. This one costs around $500. And my favorite thing of this lens is this control ring, which you can set to any sort of function. So I have it mapped to ISO, but if you want to change aperture, literally any camera function that you want, you can set it to. So that's super dope. And that's kind of the camera kit. So $1,500 combined. I know it's expensive, but if you're looking to get anything more than a point and shoot, anything more than a smartphone, cameras are pricey. As a reference, A7S III just for the body, $3,500. I know I'm planning on getting two, so this is still relatively cheap. The next important thing to consider is mounting the camera. I've got a solid option that's still pretty cheap. It's around $70. This is a 62-inch aluminum tripod. I just snagged this off Amazon. Like I mentioned, it's around 70 bucks. Having a tripod ups your stability game. This is so much better than sticking your camera on a desk or on a stack of books. Just having something simple, something versatile. The legs come out to a decent height, and my favorite thing is the adjustable neck. So that gives you some extra length. It's got an adjustable fluid head, but if you can spend the extra money on a legit fluid head, that would probably be my next option. So this is the Benro S6 fluid head. So having a fluid head like this really ups your video game, and you can get all of the silky pans, so that's either up to down or side to side. If you really want to step up, you can actually get a slider, but I think for entry level, stick to just a simple fluid head, you can get 80 to 90% of your shots. When you get more comfortable, when you want to up the game to some more complex shots, that's when you can look to add a slider to your pack. And the last important thing to complete any sort of YouTube or I guess video setup is the audio. And I would argue that audio is more important than video quality anyways. No one wants to sound like you're talking through a potato. So just grabbing an onboard or an on-camera microphone is your first step. So this costs around 40 to 50 bucks depending on which model you get. I know there's some from Rode. This one is from Amazon. It's got phantom power, which essentially means it draws power from your camera itself. You don't need an external battery, AA batteries, so you never need to worry if the microphone is actually on. This plugs straight into the microphone jack, and this records way better audio than what's built into the actual camera. So you can see here, I've got a complete kind of plug and play setup. The entire kit will cost you around that 16 to 1700 bucks, but if you actually shop on Kijiji, if you shop secondhand, I'm sure you could get everything under that $1,000 mark. So that's definitely value. If you still want to drop lower, smartphones have just gotten so much better in the past couple of years. Smartphone cameras are kind of next level. So having just a cheap combo like this is pretty much your setup in its own. Just grabbing a cheap Amazon tripod, around 30 to 40 bucks, stick whatever smartphone you want. And if you really want to make it a bit better, you can add an external microphone, some plug right into USB-C, and we'll quickly press record there, and you can kind of see what that quality looks like compared to, say, on my Sony. Pretty decent for a smartphone. I get that I have the latest iPhone, but most cameras these days, they shoot in 4K. Some cameras even record in 8K on a smartphone. Samsung, I'm looking at you. Smartphone cameras are just so good these days. The last thing that I quickly want to chat about is getting lights, which make a huge improvement also. I would say lighting makes a bigger difference than the actual camera itself. So I'm currently using an aperture light dome. Very expensive. Starting off, these are pretty similar to the ones that I had. These are once again found off of Amazon, around that $60 to $70 mark. These are just your basic soft boxes. These are just standard fluorescent light bulbs. They're rated to 5500, which is the color temperature that actually mimics what normal daylight is. And if you stick them behind a soft diffuser, you get some pretty decent light output. Probably not as good as more expensive lights, but these cost a fraction of the price. A great place to start. So yeah, that's pretty much all of the budget gear that you need to get into the creative space, whether you're starting your own YouTube channel, whether you're starting a vlog, whatever it may be. You can even use it for streaming over on Twitch. All of these pieces in the end are pretty versatile, and if the budget edition was all you wanted to see, you can kind of end this video now. If you want to continue, I'm going to talk about the pieces of kit that I have super quick. So like I mentioned, A7R3, we've got two different bodies, planning on upgrading those to the A7S3. Lenses, I've got the G Master line ranging from the 16 to 35, 24 to 70, and 70 to 200, which is what we are recording on the secondary cam right here. I've got a Benro carbon fiber tripod to keep it nice and lightweight. When I used to actually travel, this would come with me since it is lighter and it can fit in a suitcase. I also have a Manfrotto heavy duty tripod, usually meant for holding the slider, for holding the heavier camera. I've got a couple fluid heads kicking around, as well as the older Rhino slider, which once again, that is gonna get upgraded to the Arc 2 in the near future. I've got an Aperture 120D with the 2nd gen light dome, and I actually have another Aperture 120D that's bouncing light right off the ceiling to kind of give me some nice white fill behind me. And lastly, mic-wise, we are recording everything with the Sennheiser MKE 600, which is actually sitting right over frame, and that is being recorded into the Zoom H1N. This is an audio interface and it saves everything to an SD card. The only downside, I do have to line everything up in post when I'm editing over on Final Cut. But yeah, that's essentially my YouTube setup. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, found some useful tips, tricks, and of course tech to start your very own journey. Happy to answer any questions down below in the comments, and I'll catch the rest of you in one of my next vids. Peace.